I want to give everybody an official welcome today, and thanks for joining our self-service webinar. In today's session, we'll show you some of the self-service capabilities which will be available within ADvendio. So my name is Samantha Giaver, and I'm an account manager with ADvendio, and I'm really excited to be co-hosting today with one of our product managers, Jennifer Hornibrook. So for any of you who are joining us for the first time, just want to mention some quick topics about how our webinars are structured. So everybody who joins today is on mute. We can't hear you, but please use the chat box in the corner of your screen to ask any questions as Jennifer goes through the self-service portal functionalities. We'll answer all of those questions submitted towards the end of the webinar. And then if any questions do come to mind after the webinar, you can always email your account manager directly or our support team as well. And as we mentioned before, we are recording the session, so it'll be sent out via email within the next couple of days for you to share with your team members. So Jennifer, before we get started, maybe it makes sense if you can explain a little bit about what we mean when we say self-service. I mean, everybody might have a slightly different definition, so I think it'd be interesting to hear your point of view before we get started.
Yeah, perfect. So thank you very much for the introduction, Samantha, and welcome everybody to the webinar. That's actually a really good place for us to start, and we're kind of planning on doing that anyway. So both of these words that you've mentioned, they kind of self-service versus marketplace are very often, they were run in the same discussions and they often cover a lot of the same ground. So self-service, which is the topic of today, a self-service platform is intended to replace the interaction with the sales rep and to allow your customer to access and manage their campaigns directly in the user interface. A marketplace, on the other hand, or should I say an ad marketplace, on the other hand, is where buyers and sellers of all sizes can connect to exchange their advertising inventory. From these very two brief descriptions of both concepts, you can clearly see the key differences between the two. So firstly, of course, you have the user base. Secondly, you have the inventory available. So there would be different types of inventory available on a self-service ad platform versus an ad marketplace. In particular, an ad marketplace would have more inventory available. And due to its very nature, a marketplace would need to be more scalable, and therefore it has to have more advanced technology behind it. So what we're here to talk about today is more particularly a self-service portal, and ours is based on the Salesforce communities. Before we jump into the portal itself, I kind of like to start by addressing the key pain points in the market which would make a self-service portal necessary. I think this is kind of very useful to give our users and our viewers an idea of exactly why we want to do this and what it can help achieve.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds good.
So for everyone who's listening today, you're of course aware that there are many different pain points which could be addressed when you're coming to managing your campaigns. So for example, there are many tedious and repetitive processes which sales reps carry out, and they do this for both high and low revenue campaigns. These processes in particular are very dependent on the sales rep. So the client depends on the sales rep to both configure and select their ads, which is a very human resources heavy process. In these processes as well, there are of course a lot of back and forth between the customers and the sales reps. This is time which you could better spend managing customer queries or even maybe growing your business in areas which you previously could not address. In terms of these as well, there's a lot of overhead in relation to low revenue campaigns. Additionally, there's a lack of real-time overview. So by this, I mean that the users cannot access their invoices instantly or see up-to-date performance reports kind of straight away in real time. And I think what everyone viewing will agree with, that the last and most important thing is that there are very costly advertising technology fees involved in managing campaigns.
Yeah, I think that's a really good overview. I mean, honestly, I hear a lot of these pain points quite often from the customers that I speak with on a daily basis. So people are always asking, how can we address these and how can we simplify the process? And especially for like those small deals that you mentioned that can take up a lot of the sales reps' time.
Yeah, exactly. So when it comes to making your business as time and cost effective as possible, it really comes down to addressing those key aspects, which I just mentioned, automating as much as possible and focusing on areas with better return. In order to address these pain points, ADvendio would like to introduce a self-service portal, which allows the customers to scale their business as easily and efficiently as possible. I think what a lot of you are thinking right now is how exactly could a self-service portal help in alleviating those pain points that I just mentioned. So obviously it goes without saying that, as you'll see in a minute when we show you the actual prototype, that it'll provide a nice, simple user interface for managing and creating campaigns. However, there are many more advantages available than just that. Self-service could be considered as a cost-effective solution for expansion. This means that you can profitably address small and medium-sized clients, and in doing so, you'll increase your market share as well as without increasing, your internal headcount. By doing this, you can simplify campaign management by enabling customers to leverage the direct relationship between sell side and buy side. And in doing so, as I mentioned in the last one, you avoid costly ad tech fees and simplify management of, in particular, low budget campaigns. If you also automate and standardize workflows, you can help improve efficiency and reduce both human errors and human interactions. Of course, we're all human. We make mistakes with emails, with back and forth processes. Self-service portals, of course, would empower clients, as the name suggests, to self-serve. So it allows the client to create and review campaigns, as well as download invoices, upload ad material, check proof of performance, and much more, all in real time, which is very important in this aspect. When you administer stuff through the ADvendio self-service portal, the campaigns that are created would also be fully integrated with the customer's ADvendio processes overall, so further downstream processes would also be considered. And lastly, one of the key advantages to the ADvendio self-service portal is that it is a Salesforce-based, therefore it's ensuring no lengthy integration time, should I say, and guaranteeing that all your own systems are available in real time via the client portal. It is also based on the Salesforce communities, so this offers our customers the opportunity to create their own portals and configure it to meet their custom business needs in particular.
All right, yeah, that all sounds really good. Excited to see the portal. I think one of the really great things is now with all of these questions that I hear all the time, it's nice to know that now we have answers to be able to solve these issues that customers are having. So I think what would be really interesting to know is exactly how these needs can be met within the self-service portal, and then specifically, like how could these be met today?
Mm-hmm. So as of today, what users can do is they can build their own flows, and in doing so, they can harness the ADvendio media campaign creation, and as well as request optimization or alteration. By doing this, they can then support digital direct, streaming media, print, and out-of-home campaigns. This is kind of a lot of words, and I think the best way to actually explain this and to help our viewers to visualize it a bit more is to actually just jump straight into our working prototype and kind of demo and show some of the self-service capabilities that we're thinking of. I think it's always best to help people visualize.
Yes, visual is always best.
So perfect. So what you see here is an example of a dashboard which could be created for your self-service portal. So here you can present the user with options as to what they can do within the portal. So what we've created, for example, today is that the user could create a campaign. They can get an overview of existing campaigns. They can get an overview of invoices as well as reports. For today's webinar, I'm logged into Acme Media self-service portal, which you can see from up here in the top left, the little logo. And I'm logged in as Sandra Evans. You can kind of see my name up here. And Sandra Evans, for purpose of today's webinar, I like to have a little story going through. She works in a small local bakery in the Netherlands.
All right, so first question here, how does Sandra actually get access to this portal?
That's actually a really good point to start with. So as I mentioned earlier, the portal is actually based on the Salesforce communities, meaning we can take full advantage of the user and permission management within Salesforce. So that means that Acme Media, the owner of this portal, has the ability to provide access to this portal to their existing contacts within Salesforce. And this is done using the user creation and permission management, which Salesforce admins know very well.
Oh, all right. So if this is all done within the customer Salesforce org, does that mean there's no like additional processes that the admins need to learn to get this started?
Yeah, exactly. Any admin who's listening knows full well user creation and permission management, so they could just jump straight in and give access to the portal to their contacts. Yeah, so what I wanted to show to you and our viewers today is the flow that a client could take to create a campaign. So we can see here from our dashboard, we have this button to either create a campaign, or I can go on the tab. So let me just click the little button. The campaign creation itself is based on simple selection of desired criteria, so such as the target group, geographic location, channel, format, etc. You can see, of course, the different criteria and the different steps set out here in the little pipeline on top. As I mentioned earlier, my example is Sandra. She works in a bakery and she wants to create a campaign which meets her business needs. Our first step here is the target group. So on first look at these target group, I think we can very clearly identify two groups in particular which would be of interest to our customer or client today, which would be, let's start with foodies, and we'll go also with lifestyle enthusiasts. Doing this and selecting the targeting group limits the inventory to those which meet this particular target group. So let's go ahead and press next.
So these target groups, they're chosen, or they're based on what the admin has put into the back end of the system, right?
Exactly, yeah, what is available within the flow as configured by the admin who creates the flow.
Got it, okay.
The next thing that we need to do is select where our advertisement should run geographically. As I mentioned, Sandra's bakery would want the local bakery. So she'd want to optimize her revenue by advertising locally. Just makes sense given the nature of that business. So we'll go ahead and we'll select her city in particular, which will Amsterdam. Let's press next. Now we get into the next step, which is specifying the advertisement details. This would specify, for example, the type of ad, where it should run, how it would look, and what it would contain. So for the purpose of today's webinar, Sandra wants a display ad. So we'll pick our display instead of a newspaper, print, or video. Let me just press next. Format, we are going to stick with the default. So we're going to go with our format and we're going to stick with the creative materials being ready so that Sandra has everything ready that she needs for this campaign. She doesn't need to request anything. Press next again. So now we get to kind of the interesting parts of it. We get to pick a name for our campaign. We get to pick when it should run and also how much we're willing to spend. So Samantha, what do you think we should call this one, today's campaign?
Oh gosh, I am not creative at all, but let's just, maybe I can get more creative than test campaign.
Yes, please do.
Let's just call it maybe like Red Velvet Bakery Summer Campaign.
Ooh, yum.
2020.
Red Velvet, making me hungry. Let's go with that one.
Actually,
Bakery, Summer Campaign 2020, perfect. So that gives us as well then an idea for our date. So since it's summer, we'll go June to the end of July. And budget. So what the budget does is it'll set the total amount that you want to spend on this particular campaign, and then it will be used to calculate the quantity that can be delivered for that given budget. So for today's, we're going to go with €2,500 of a budget, and then we're going to press next. Now we get the opportunity to select a contact person from the client side. So this will be the main contact for Acme Media regarding the campaign we're creating. This could be the person who's creating the campaign, so Sandra, or any other person from the bakery as defined by the context within your Salesforce. So this is another example of how it's using the Salesforce information and it's up to date. So what we're going to do is we're going to just pick Brian instead of Sandra, because why not? I could also set here straight away that this person is the next contact that we're going to have to set, but I'll show you that as well. Press next. This would be the material contact, also the person who'd be responsible, for example, for answering questions regarding the creative. We'll also go with Sandra. And you can always add as well the admin who's configuring this flow can add some tooltips and some hints for the users to explain to them what these are. So for example, if I didn't know what the contact person for materials was, I could just click here and I would get a little prompt, and all of these can be configured directly in the flow by the admins who create them. Of course, you don't have to remember each time.
That's helpful. Yeah. It's similar. It's like similar to the typical ADvendio system where you can have like the behind the scenes information of what everything means. I like that.
Exactly. Yeah, so we've set Sandra, and then we will press next again. And what we can see here now is a basic summary of the campaign that we've just configured. So we can see the account name, which is Red Velvet Bakery. We can see the campaign name, the runtime. We can see the contacts that we configured, so the commercial contact, the materials contact. We can also see here the budget of 2,500, and now the calculated impressions. So how many impressions €2,500 of a budget would get me. We can also see as well the target group, location, etc., just that you can kind of get an overview of everything that you've seen before you move forward and proceed with your payment.
And then here, like I notice here that you're talking about impressions, but this can be any type of advertising, right? If it's like a fixed price newsletter ad or something like that, like these are things that you can add.
Yeah, exactly.
As well, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we've picked display as we went through, but of course, if it was a print thing, there would be a fixed price or whatever kind of type of inventory matches to your configuration.
Okay, great.
And of course, if you decided that's too much or too little, you can always go back and up your budget, down your budget, and then see that reflected in the summary as you go forward. Yeah, so now that I've kind of reviewed this information, and I think, yep, that's great, and I want to continue with my order, I can simply press next, and then will proceed with the payment.
Oh, so let me just take a look at this page. I haven't seen this before. So you just do credit card payment online?
Yeah, exactly. You can pay directly in the portal. So we'll have integrated credit card payment. This can be used, for example, to do total payment upfront and have the invoice issued directly. So what you can see here in this little payment screen is the value of my campaign is automatically entered here in the charge amount. We put 2,500 as our amount, and I can process this payment directly. So I'll enter in some test information.
This part is really cool. We have had people asking about this for a long time, so it's nice to know that we can do like credit card payments in the system instead of having to go through the full invoice process for everybody.
Exactly. It guarantees a more constant revenue stream. There's less overhead in chasing the invoices, making sure they're paid, checking if they're paid, marking them in the relevant systems. It's a lot quicker and a lot easier to just have them pay directly.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've gone through now, we've entered some test information. Don't worry, these aren't any real card details for anybody watching, of course. And we just press charge. So you can see straight away the user will get a confirmation page once their payment has been processed successfully. I can get all my information here, so I have a gateway reference, payment reference, and everything is of course encrypted through the relevant processes. Then you can press next, and what you will see now is you will see an overview of both the campaign which has been created and the campaign item which has been created. Let's kind of start maybe with a quick look at our campaign that we created. Let's click in there.
Okay. And then on the back end, I'm assuming somebody must be notified, right, that the order has been created and like the credit card payment has gone through?
You mean on the Sandra's side or on Acme Media's side, or both?
On Acme Media's, like on the advertiser side. Okay.
Yeah, they could configure that within the flow that maybe when something is created, notify person X, for example. These things could be configured within the flows.
Yeah, this is really cool.
Yeah, so you can see directly exactly what we just created. So our closing date, which is today, the day that we made it, my campaign start and end date. If I click on my campaign items, I'll see here my campaign, which meets the criteria that I entered. So for example, it's a medium rectangle, which of course you can see here from the little name, CPM, and here's the quantity, which is the impressions that I saw in my summary and my overview. You can see all of these directly in the portal and straight away after creation.
All right. So here, like we're looking at one specific media campaign, but I see some other tabs here up on the top. With this like campaign overview, are you able to see like a history of all the campaigns that you've created over time for Acme?
Yeah, exactly. So you can see recently created campaigns, those which are maybe even running or have finished running. So earlier I had my little campaign overview open before I created this campaign, and you can see that I only had one, my previously run winter campaign. If I give this page a little refresh, there's the summer campaign that we just created, and these are for the account of Sandra, because of course I'm logged in under the Red Velvet Bakery, and I can see those media campaigns.
Oh, I see. And then this is just like the typical list view that we would see in ADvendio. So now like Sandra can create different list views and things like that as she starts to have like more campaigns and filter them on specific criteria.
Exactly, yeah. If you press the drop down, you can see all different types of list views available here. Of course, I've just pinned the all campaigns because it's a nice simple one in this example, but yep, Again, this is another example of how I can make use of existing Salesforce functionalities as well, and how that makes it easier for Acme Media to jump in and make these things possible.
Cool. So is there anything else here that we can do with these campaigns in the system?
Oh, sorry, I hit my mic. Yes, so what we can do is I can look in here, for example, at our winter campaign, the previously run winter campaign. I can see, for example, the payment information. So if I go to the invoices of this campaign, which is already finished, invoices, we can see under the payments, there's payment information that is this much has been paid, which is of course the total amount that we have here. We can also, if I wanted to, I could download the invoice directly from the portal. So this allows the user to log in and directly download it. Maybe their finance department needs it, maybe they can't find the email where they had gotten it previously, so it allows them to, enables them to directly log in and get this information themselves. Additionally, if I go back to my media campaign, under the reports tab, I can also see a view of how this particular campaign has performed during its runtime. See that here.
Oh, that's great. Like these are, again, like the kind of reports that we're previously able to do on the back end, but now it's all customer facing.
Exactly. It allows them the transparency and the real-time view of how these things are performing. And they can also configure what is viewable within here as well.
Awesome. So with these campaigns, I'm just kind of thinking if Sandra, for example, is always like month over month or year over year purchasing the same products, is she able to like use some sort of clone functionality in the system?
So at the moment, it isn't really our plan to support kind of a cloning of existing campaigns. Of course, it's very useful that you can go in, look at these campaigns, see how they performed. And even though in theory, like you just said, you might purchase the same or similar products on a month-to-month basis or regular basis, the idea of going through a process or a flow like the one we just showed is that entering the criteria is really important because it would reflect kind of currently available products instead of allowing the user to configure things, then checking the availability only to find out what they wanted is not available at that given time. So this check availability, of course, is something as well that we want to work on in Q2 of this year. But I think it's nice to give the customer, or to give Sandra in this case, the inventory that's actually available directly based on what she wants to achieve with her campaign.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that actually makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of an overview of our self-service capabilities, which ADvendio has been working on. Let me just flick back over to my, yeah, so that's what we've been working on, and it's also been a focus, well, will be one of the main focuses of our 2020. Kind of a little disclaimer here, as is very standard in this kind of webinar. A lot of what we're showing here is kind of future development product plans, and all purchases that are to be made should be made on the basis of features which are currently available within ADvendio. Just the usual forward-looking statement, so to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good. It's important to point out that it's still in development.
Yeah, just in case, and you never know who's listening and at what point they've also joined in at the conversation. So what I mentioned is, already is that this will be one of our core focuses for 2020. However, we've already been laying the foundation for this and other related features in 2019. What we've done is we've made some key features accessible via API, such as check availability, selecting targeting sets, applying dynamic pricing and commitments. Of course, if you're not an ADvendio customer, those words might not mean anything to you. So if you're a prospect who's joining in to see what capabilities might be there, the main thing is that we're striving to have a full stack of APIs available so that the functionalities are scalable and that we can ensure data accuracy and compliance, in particular for downstream processes such as reporting, creating your accounting records, generating payouts, all of these kind of things.
That's exciting. So it sounds like there's a lot of like really interesting developments that are coming up. I feel like, you know, even besides the self-service portal, our product expanded so much within the past year or so. What do you think, like, as far as keeping our customers updated with all of these new developments, what's the best way to keep everybody informed?
Yeah, so the best way to keep informed usually, of course, is looking at our wiki. We have the wiki where we put our regular release notes. We're also, maybe I'll flick forward to that and I'll come back to our 2020 roadmap for now. So here is our upcoming webinars that we have. So if you like kind of hearing about things in a webinar format, these are webinars and sessions that we have planned on the topics of programmatic and self-service / marketplace. These are in addition to our regular webinars, which are all of our customers listening are familiar with. Those are webinars where we do a roundup of kind of the latest developments and a demo and show them, and those are very good to kind of get a first insight as to the newest, coolest features in ADvendio. And it's also great because we get some feedback then as well from customers who see them. You can sign up for those webinars in our link here attached, so advendio.com/webinars, as well as where you can also see recordings of webinars. Like we mentioned earlier, the recording of today's session will be available on our website, and you can see the new upcoming sessions as well. In terms of our 2020 roadmap, let me just flick back very. So as Samantha mentioned, we have some really big things planned in terms of this self-service general area in 2020 and 2021. Very difficult to say. The first thing that we're going to focus on in particular is the Product Search Plus. So we want to enhance digital API-driven planning of campaigns by building on what we've already done in 2019, in particular extending the digital out-of-home capabilities of Product Search Plus, putting that very simple for everyone to understand, as opposed to kind of throwing jargon and fancy words. By doing this, we basically want to make campaign booking as quick and simple as possible, using real-time availability and matching filters to enable AI-powered product selection. Just to kind of make it very straightforward, very simple. One thing that we're also looking to do quite a bit in the course of 2020 is enhancing our payment support. This has been, of course, outside of the area, just the self-service portal, but of course, for the purpose of this webinar, maybe we just focus on those aspects, which would be like we saw in the flow we just did, credit card payments. By allowing credit card payments and direct and instant payments, you reduce overhead in administering low revenue invoices. You could also maybe, for example, give partial upfront payments, maybe in a case where the credit rating of a customer might not be so great, or where it might be just good to have a more constant revenue stream. You could have partial upfront payments, or even just in some cases, credit card holds. Those are kind of things that we have planned in 2020 and which will tie in very much to the topic of self-service and enabling our customers to enable their users to do a lot more within the portals themselves.
Yeah, that sounds good. So like between attending the different webinars to see what's going on with the self-service portal and like these other topics that you discussed, and of course, talking with your account manager or your support team, we can, give you all the updates on how these roadmap features are coming along in the product.
Exactly. There's so many different avenues to kind of keep in touch or keep up to date. So whichever one suits you best, if all suit you best, of course, we're happy to have you at every webinar, reading every release notes, whichever you prefer. Yeah, so that was kind of the gist of what I wanted to show for today. At the beginning of the webinar, we said that we would answer any questions that you have with regards to what we've shown here today, or any other questions you might have. If you haven't had a chance to put your question in yet, of course, you have another few minutes while we work through the other questions to put them in. But if you don't think of any now, maybe you think of some tomorrow or this evening when you're having your dinner, of course, you can always drop an email to support@ADvendio, or of course talk to your account managers. Yeah, so maybe what we tend to do for these is Samantha will go through the questions, we'll kind of sort them into similar questions and ask them, and I'll provide answers to the best of my abilities.
All right, and there's actually a number of questions in here, so this is my favorite part.
Perfect.
All right, so
listening.
yes, exactly. Sometimes this helps me learn as well too, especially because a lot of this is like, I don't know if we talked about this too much, but the portal seems to be like highly customizable. So it's like some people will have questions about certain features where others might not need it. So it's kind of interesting to see how people plan to use the portal.
Exactly.
So first question here is, can I upload my media kit directly in the portal?
Yes, so by media kit, I'm assuming we mean kind of a guidelines as to what exactly they offer and what the user can pick. I'm going to go with that. So as you mentioned, Samantha, the portals are based on the Salesforce communities, which means you have full flexibility as to what you make available here. So for example, you could configure, which I showed earlier. Let me just quickly flick over to the other screen. So here you have little tabs You could configure, for example, another tab here in this portal, which you could call guidelines or to read before starting or something. And here you could either upload your media kit directly. You could type in examples of what your particular inventory means. What does it mean to have a medium rectangle? What does it mean to have this? All of this is completely customizable and can be done within the Salesforce community setup already.
All right, nice. Can I customize the flow as I need? I'm assuming then the campaign flow.
Yeah, I suppose what we're discussing there would be the campaign creation flow that we showed. So in order to achieve what you saw here today in this demo, you'd create your own flow, which of course means you can configure and customize it exactly as you like. Have it in different orders, maybe have different parts that you need for creating your campaigns.
Okay. Is it possible to upload my creatives in the portal?
So users who have access to the portal, they can upload or attach creatives directly to the campaigns using kind of the normal file functionality or the upload or attach functionality within Salesforce.
Okay. Let's see. What if I don't want my customers to pay with credit card? So I guess is like that invoice functionality still available?
Yeah, that's true. You can create the flow to match your needs, so kind of related to the customizing of the flow. So you don't have to include the credit card payment, which we showed on the screen. You can, of course, just stick to the normal process before where an invoice will be created, and this can be sent out to a client via or however other processes you have in place. It's completely customizable.
Okay, perfect. And how can I start using the self-service portal?
I think the best way to start off with this is to talk to one of the sales or account managers to set up the project and to kind of help you through the process. As I mentioned, a lot of it is, of course, Salesforce based, but it is good to have guidance through it. So one of the sales or account managers would be best to help guide our users.
Yes, sounds good. Talk to me or talk to any of our other account managers.
Yeah.
Okay, so is Sandra, this is more, I guess, like a use case. Is Sandra the customer creating the campaign, or is this the internal marketing team creating the campaign?
Okay, so in the idea of what we showed today, so the Sandra is the owner of the bakery, so she is a customer creating the campaign. Of course, you could also have your internal marketing team of the bakery could also have access. I think maybe I didn't say it at the beginning. In my head, Sandra's the owner of her bakery. Maybe I didn't say that. So of course, Sandra could have access as the owner, but of course, she could have her internal marketing team who could also have access. The idea of booking a campaign would be easy as possible for people who have experience with or without ad experience. So that's kind of why we go through the criteria selection as opposed to saying, I want this particular type of inventory. So it allows their goals to kind of set what the inventory will be selected. So it can be both. It can be a customer creating it or internal marketing.
Okay, so it's like just basically like user permissions, and the company itself can decide who goes in and creates these campaigns.
Exactly.
Okay. So for creating a campaign, is there an option to check your inventory in Google Ad Manager?
So at the moment, in terms of what I just showed right now, there's not, so to say, but the check availability will be part of our product search plus, which is on the roadmap, and then the inventory check will be possible. So against Google Ad Manager or whichever ones are implemented at the time. And I think the current roadmap for that, or the current scale, is around Q2.
Oh,
so
Q2
you'll know
2020.
directly. Yes, you'll know directly in the flow whether what you're trying to configure is actually available.
Okay, that's perfect. That's not too far off.
Yeah.
What about terms and conditions for campaign? So maybe the question is like, can you add in specific terms and conditions for the campaigns that are being created?
I'm wondering what exactly they mean by terms and conditions. I suppose if you're saying that the flows are customizable and terms and conditions can be added to that, I'm not exactly sure what they mean by terms and conditions.
I mean, if I had to
yeah.
guess, I would think like on the proposals that are created within ADvendio internally, there's like a little terms and conditions text box that is created and added to the proposal. So maybe just something like that on like that confirmation page or something.
Oh, okay, yeah, that could be added to the flow. You could have these things mapped, for example, from accounts or whatever, that could be added and customized throughout the flow. Yeah.
Okay.
So I
Okay,
wasn't
cool.
sure, do they mean terms and
I
conditions
mean,
to what was
I'm
in
just
the flow?
guessing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what it means.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We're getting a lot of questions. This is awesome.
That's great.
Is
Yeah.
there an option to link the system to a business-owned invoicing tool?
Do they mean that they create their own invoices for it, so to say, or it's hard to know what they mean by that. So in terms,
Maybe.
yeah.
Maybe they already have a tool that they're using to generate invoices, like a
Okay.
QuickBooks or like an ERP system.
hmm So what would happen in the flow, in the example flow that we showed, of course, is the invoice, so to say, would be created. I know there are customers who use these invoices and this invoice object information to generate their own invoices in an external system. So definitely, in the extent that it's possible with the normal ADvendio processes, it could be possible. It would take place in an additional flow, for example, maybe, or an additional process outside of the campaign creation, maybe, or of course they could combine them, but it's possible insofar as it is with the normal invoices.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I think that makes sense. All right, next question. Is the inventory that the bakery purchases specific to the publisher, or can they buy across multiple publishers?
So this is a good question, and that would be the difference or specification that we made at the beginning. At the moment, what we're showing is a self-service portal where it's focusing on supporting publishers. However, in the future, this could be extended, so it could be extended across multiple publishers, and that would then be considered more of a marketplace. So what we showed right now is a single specific publisher. So Acme Media was the publisher, but in the future, this could be extended to multiple publishers. Yes.
Right, but this is like a kind of like a more forward-facing development,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
The open marketplace where you can look at inventory across multiple publishers.
Yeah, right now it's just a single publisher, and hopefully in the future there will be an expansion. But for now, what we show was just a specific publisher, single publisher.
Okay. Do my customers need to have Salesforce in order to use the portal?
So the customers don't need to have Salesforce to get access. The self-service licenses are external user licenses. So those are licenses that can be bought from ADvendio. So the customer themselves, so Sandra in this case, does not have Salesforce to use the portal.
She basically would just need the username and login that is provided to her from Acme Media. So like
Exactly.
Acme Media, if I understand it correctly, has ADvendio, and then they have as well these self-service users that they give out to these customers like Sandra.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, and last question here. Is a contract with Sandra required?
So I wonder what they mean by contract. Between ADvendio and Sandra, or do they mean between Acme Media and Sandra? Maybe this relates a bit to the question we had a second ago, that the publisher or inventory owner, so Acme Media in this situation, they would need to purchase self-service licenses. So it's on them to charge this to the advertiser or not. It's not that a contract between ADvendio would need to be made with Sandra, if we're understanding the question correctly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if we're looking at it from the other way, if you're saying is a contract required between Sandra and Acme Media, I mean, I guess that would just depend on the on the terms between the two. Like maybe they need to have a contract in place to get access to the portal, or maybe not. But I guess that would be like a personal business decision there.
Yeah, that's entirely down to the publisher themselves, how they want to manage in their self-service portal and that function and features, because of course it is a nice function for their users to be able to have as well. Yeah, so those were all of the questions we had. That's quite a lot of questions, actually. I'm very happy that people were listening and interested.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is because this has been such like a big topic within the industry. So I think it's our customers maybe are happy that we have something that meets their needs here. But like I mentioned before, if there are any other questions that come up, I mean, please feel free to reach out to me, reach out to Jennifer, reach out to your account managers, and we'll make sure that we get you all the information that you need on the self-service portal. Yeah,
definitely. There's our contact information on the screen right now. And of course, we're always interested to hear from people who have experience with these things or ideas, or who want to be involved very much with our kind of a back and forth on the use cases and requirements here. So always feel free to reach out to us whenever. something like this interests you, something that we present in the webinars. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much, Samantha, for co-hosting with me today. That was really good,
Yes.
and it went through really, really well. And I'm happy that we had so many questions. As Samantha mentioned, the recording will be available, so anyone who attended today or who registered even will get a recording via email, and it can also be accessed via, I think it's on YouTube, if I'm correct. It'll be on our YouTube channel, and of course then embedded on our website as well. Yeah, that is it for us. Anything else to add, Samantha?
No, I think
Yep.
that is it. So yeah, thank you all for joining us on what is most likely a home office day. We appreciate you all joining, and yeah, excited to talk more about the self-service portal in the upcoming months.
Yeah, that is it. So perfect. Thank you, everybody, and have a good day and stay safe and healthy.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.